In the world of tanking, few names hit harder than the Tiger I. Revered, feared, and over-engineered. It's become the stuff of legends. But how accurate is its digital doppelganger in War Thunder? Did Gaijin get it right? Or are there historical potholes under those steel tracks? Let's dive into the story of the Tiger H1, from battlefield brute to game icon. Let's get one thing out of the way. The Tiger wasn't born in a panic over the T-34. Its roots go back to 1937 when Germany started poking at the idea of a breakthrough heavy tank. The goal? A steel beast that could punch through fortified lines, not just enemy armor. Did the KV-1 and T-34 affect the production timelines of the Tiger? Yes, it did. But let's move on. The concept of a Deurbugwagen, or breakthrough vehicle, led to the multiple prototype designs in the late 1930s. These were heavy tanks by early war standards, but weren't quite the monster we later recognized as the Tiger I. By 1941, after observing how existing German tanks struggled against increasingly better armored Allied vehicles, the call for a heavier, more robust tank became more urgent. This tank was not to match the Soviet armor, but to actually be superior to it. Let's fast forward a little and enter the VK501 program, initiated to create a 45-ton class heavy tank. Two contenders emerged, Porsche and Henschel. Porsche's design, the VK501P, was advanced and ambitious, featuring a gasoline-electric drivetrain, but came with major reliability issues. Henschel, on the other hand, went for a more traditional mechanical approach, the VK501H. On April the 20th, 1942, both designs were demonstrated for Hitler's birthday. Despite Porsche's personal connections with the Führer, the prototype's mechanical gremlins were too serious to ignore. Henschel's model was ultimately chosen and refined into what would become the Tiger I. It is important to note that the design complexities and roadmap of this tank is very complex as shown in the diagram. The tank entered production in July 1942, and its debut in combat wasn't exactly glorious. The first units deployed to Leningrad bogged down literally due to the tank's immense weight and mechanical sensitivity. Still, those early lessons were taken seriously and improvements followed quickly. At its core, the Tiger was built for a specific purpose. The doctrine at the time of development was specifically to use the tank and its flaws as a breakthrough tank, where it would punch a hole through the defenses and return back for repairs and maintenance. This would be the rinse and repeat method used initially, but as the war raged on, Germany started to use the tank in various roles that were not suitable for it. This is why the tank gets a lot of flack for being a terribly over-engineered hunk of metal. That being said though, it featured 100mm of frontal armor, an 88mm KWK-36L56 gun, and enough mechanical complexity to make any field mechanic cry. Only 1,347 Tiger Is were ever produced, largely due to their long production time and high cost. But this was something the Germans were aware of, especially if you understand the doctrine at the time. Interestingly, the Tiger wasn't just a weapon, it was also a psychological tool. It caused panic among Allied tank crews and infantry, and Allied war planners often overestimated the number of Tigers in a given area. German tank aces like Kurt Knipsel and Michael Wittmann turned it into a mobile fortress, famously destroying dozens of enemy vehicles in single engagements. But it wasn't all glory. The Tiger was notoriously maintenance intensive. Tracks would break, transmissions would fail, and fuel consumption was laughably inefficient. Still, when it worked terrifyingly well, and no Tiger is more legendary than Tiger 131. Captured in Tunisia by British forces in 1943, Tiger 131 was the first operational Tiger I taken intact. It was repaired, studied, and eventually ended up at the Bovington Tank Museum in the United Kingdom. And thanks to that capture, we now have a fairly accurate preserved Tiger in the world that is still running. This is the very tank Gaijin used as a model for the Tiger H1 in War Thunder. Also, I have done another breakdown on the Tiger's development history in my Tiger E video, which you can see on the top right of the screen. Be sure to check it out. So how does the Tiger H1 hold up in War Thunder? Pretty well, surprisingly. Gaijin clearly leaned on Tiger 131 for reference, and it shows. Let's look at the model accuracy. The exterior is detailed to a T, from the gun mantlet to the turret shape. It's clear this wasn't eyeballed from a movie still. Even the crew layout is correct: commander, gunner, loader in the turret, and the driver and radio operator in the hull. There are some smaller inaccuracies such as the front sprocket spokes, but these are inherited by the Tiger 131 inaccuracies during its restoration and repair. What about the gun performance, you would ask? Well, the 88mm KWK-36 is accurately modelled, firing APC-BC, HE and heat shells. However, the model does not include the PZGR-40 AP shells, which historically was used. Penetration values are historically consistent from all angles with the ammo types Gaijin gives us. In game, this translates to knocking out Shermans, T-34s and Churchills with relative ease. Just aim center mass and let the German engineering do the talking. Well, kind of. And what about the reload rate, some would ask? Well, British trials found the gun took 6 to 16 seconds to reload, varying on turret position and consequently which storage bin was being used. In War Thunder, the tank has a reload rate of 8.6 seconds stock and 7.4 seconds with an ace crew, putting it within the parameters of the real-world variant. Now that we're moving on to the turret rotation, we hit our first bump. Historically, the Tiger had a turret drive that was hydraulic and powered off the engine speed. This would be anywhere between 25 to 60 seconds for a full turret traversal. In War Thunder, the rotation is a bit generous, feeling more nimble than period accounts suggest, especially at low speeds or when stationary. So let's look at one of the major factors of this tank, the armor. Frontally, it's a brick, 100mm of armor at the front hull and turret is correct. Side armor is around 80mm and it holds up decently in up tiers if you angled properly. War Thunder gets this pretty accurately as I look at the actual schematics and War Thunder statistics. So players who brawl head on will often find themselves bouncing shells like it's going out of style. Let's look at another questionable factor, the mobility. Here's where reality and gameplay start to diverge. In War Thunder, the Tiger H1 moves very quickly, even uphill. The discrepancy is quite a lot in terms of how much speed War Thunder gives it. In real life, the Maybach HL210 engine struggled with the tank's weight as the engine historically was plagued with problems. Acceleration was sluggish. The game captures top speed reasonably, but the torque and gear shifting feel a bit, let's say, optimistic. You would probably want to know about logistics, right? Fuel consumption, track failures and mechanical wear? The tank was known for these issues, but naturally, those aren't modeled in. Understandably so, you probably don't want to schedule a pit stop mid-match. And by looking at some of the previous comments of viewers with questionable attention spans, yes, the game obviously will not model it in, and rightly so. But it's very important to note the facts and provide a clear nuance to the tank and its historical significance. The Tiger H1 in War Thunder is one of the better done historical vehicles in game. Its strengths, quirks and even some of its faults are recreated with care, but like the tank itself, it's not without some flaws. In this case, the turret rotation can be something to complain about, or even the mobility. But in all fairness, I do think the Tiger is modelled well and should not be changed. So hats off to Gaijin for honouring Tiger 131 and providing us with a decent model. If you enjoyed the content, please consider liking this video and dropping your comment below on what tank you would want to see next. I enjoy your comments. Before I sign off though, have a look at these two videos of tanks that were from the same period. And on that bombshell, I bid you all a farewell. Good night.